So welcome everybody to the first Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of this call is to increase the local community's knowledge of the experts, the education, and the economic resources that are available to help small businesses in your community to flourish and to help the communities who love them. Because an entrepreneur will not flourish without the support of others around them. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's, as always, the call is being recorded, and you'll get a link to the website after it's recorded and a copy of the PowerPoint. If you remember, we do encourage sharing at the end of after Linda's presentation. And so if there's anything that you want to share with others, because we learn as much from each other as we do from the speaker. No offense, Linda.
No, none taken. I totally agree.
Yeah. So today, Linda, we were going to book in, most of you don't remember, but Dustin Gale started our 2023 year speaking about some, I think it was the CSP grants, the community service tax credits. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to book in the end of the year, but Dustin left us for greener pastures. And so Linda is here. Linda has a lot of experience, and she's going to take his role with downtown commercial rehabilitation. And Linda will explain to you that we had a little mix-up in communication. And so we will focus on what was our original topic, and that was downtown commercial rehab. Take it away, Linda.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. So I'm not the expert of downtown commercial rehab, but I hopefully know enough. And if I don't, I will definitely get back with you and answer any questions you have. So please feel free to put those in the chat, or and I'll leave time for questions at the end as well. This is a brand new PowerPoint. This is for next year's, meaning 2023 commercial rehab applications. So our downtown commercial rehab is what we're trying to do is in a downtown district that you create, try to improve the buildings in that area and to alleviate the blighted areas so that buildings will continue to thrive in your communities and that you have a nice, beautiful downtown. That's what our goal is with this program. Okay, my page down isn't working for some reason. I'll do it that way. The eligible applications are anybody in small cities and counties in the state of Kansas. So the only ones that are listed there, there's a few that are called entitlements. And what that means is that HUD gives money directly to those communities because of their size. And so they get their own money. So they're not eligible for the small city state program. So that's why I want to distinguish that, because if you are in any of those territories, unfortunately, you'll have to go to your city or the county there to see if they have funds that can help you with your downtown, because we cannot assist those communities. A general overview of the program. We will open up the program for 2022 is closed as of today. So you'll have to wait till January 2nd of 2023 to submit an application. That will go live on January 2nd, the application process, and that will be open until we expend all the money, which usually happens in this program because it's a very popular program. But it technically extends till December 1st if we have money to do so. As all of our CDBG money, we have to meet a national objective. The national objective for this program is slum and blight, spot slum and blight, or low to moderate income jobs. We're doing things a little different for 2023 in the fact that in the past, you've only been able to submit one building per application. But now, because we have such interest in this program, we're going to limit the communities or the units of government to one application at the first. If we have money still left on July 1st, a city that was funded previously can come back in. And the reason we're doing that is just to make sure that what I told Kayla when she approved this PowerPoint as we was working on it this week, just so that the city of Linda doesn't come in and take all the money and so somebody else can't get the funds. So that's what we're going to try to do this year because it just really goes fast. So the buildings have to be housed by, and so what we're saying is that a for-profit business needs to go in that facility or that building that we do commercial rehab on. And of course, with all of our HUD CDBG money, the applicant has to be the city or county. Typically in this program, it's a city because they create that downtown district. And then we award to the city, and then whoever owns the building is a third party within our applications. I keep trying to hit that down button, it's not working. Whoops, see? This year we've been provided $1.5 million that's set aside specifically for this program. So you can do job creation and retention or the slum and blight that we talked about. And what that, I have other slides, so I'll go into that later. The maximum grant award is $250,000. The owner of the building has to put in 25% match. I will tell you that we've found after bidding out several of these projects that unfortunately the owner has needed to put in more match than 25% just because of the cost of everything and making sure that building is met up to code. And here's what I started to say. The slum and blight is slum and blight is how it's defined. And basically what we're doing is we're taking the building that has blight and falling down or whatever the case may be and putting on and correcting code enforcement issues like roofs, electrical wiring, and maybe other things, walls that need reinforced or taken care of to be stable and sound. But those are the things that we can do. There's examples there. I'm not going to read them for you, but the rehabilitation that we do on that building has to be to take care of the blight of that building because that's the national objective we're using. So it's just really protecting the building of your downtown building so that we can assure that it's secure, safe, and it can be in your downtown for many years to come. Well, there we go. The other national objective that you can do is job creation or retention. So basically, this is what we're doing is in this national objective, we're creating jobs and making sure that if you can come in as job creation or retention, you're going to be required this year to do that. So if you're putting in a restaurant or some kind of facility that's going to house or going to create jobs or retain jobs at significant levels, we want you to come in under slum and blight or under job creation, because that's the piece of the money that does not get expended. That's the only thing. We got rid of all of our, in 2022, all of our slum and blight funds that we had, but we was not able to expend all of the job creation. So this year we're assuring that the community, if they can create jobs, that we come in for the job creation category. And what that looks like is that when you hire those jobs and hire those people, they will fill out a form that certifies that they are low to moderate income. And it's basically done as if they are quarter time, then that's quarter time. But if like two part-time, half-time people will create one LMI job and that type of thing. And that's how we figure the 51% and how that's done. So it is off job creation. If the business is in a building that is currently up and running, but the walls are starting to cave, and it needs some help, we can come in and rehab that as well. And that would be to retain a job. Whoops, went too far. And here's where the slide is. It tells you about if you have one full-time equivalent FTE for every $35,000 of CDBG money. If you create or retain 7 jobs, you're eligible for the 245 instead of the 250. And 4 of those jobs must meet the low to moderate income category for your county. And that's online. We can get that for you. It's on our website as well. And it's based off the 12 months previous income. The limitations basically are that we just do the exterior of the building or do abatement or do reductions of the code violations. So that's what really, you'll have either architects certify that these are code violations, or you will have your city code enforcer, if you have one, create that list, and we can do things that are on that list. We just can't, and there's more slides that go over this, but we can't, like, if you're going to put an office building or office space in that building, we just can't do the walls for the office, that type of thing. But we really want to correct the code violations of that building and make sure it's secure for the future. The historical preservation side of it, because this is federal money, you always have to contact the Historical Society, and they have to agree to what you're doing with that building. For example, if it's a historical building, and usually they consider a building over 50 years old, which is almost all of our downtown areas in the state of Kansas. So they have to clear the application and give final clearance on it so that we meet their standards as well, and make sure that we take care of any concern that the Historical Society might have about that building. In the application, you will do some narrative. We have to have a community needs page. And that community needs page really looks like just telling us about the community, telling us about the needs of the community. So even though it's not about the project, community needs page, and it is limited to 1 page, is about the community. So what's the status of your, excuse me, what's the status of your water, your sewer, your streets, your fire station, your firemen, the policemen, of all the different areas and categories within your city. That just gives us an overview of what's going on and what you're doing with your community. The efforts of the community to revitalize your downtown district. Basically, then we want to know what you've done in the last 5 years with your downtown area and your commercial district that you've defined, so that we know that there's some activity going on, and we want to see some investors in your downtown, if at all possible. If this is just the start of that, that's okay too, but we just want to know so as we look at the application. Since this is an open window from January to December, you're not really rated against anyone else. But we just want to know this information so we can help. And plus that, if we know this information and we see that there is a business that's struggling, or there's something else going on downtown, or you're trying to develop a green space or a park area downtown, if we have other funding, or we know of other funding, we can also help you with that cause. And so that's the reason we want to know additional information other than just the project. But we do need to know about the project. So we do want to know the scope of work and how that'll impact your commercial district. We want to know what the financial capacity is. We want to know that the business that's going in that building, or that's in there now, it will thrive, and we are assisting them and helping them grow, get stronger, and provide a future for them within your downtown. So with that, we need a business plan and the reuse of that building. Just to know that we're really helping and helping the downtown move forward, helping that business move forward and grow and thrive. The last thing we look at for commercial rehab is the readiness to proceed. And what that looks like is we want to make sure that you have the tools that you need before we fund it. Now, it may look like that, well, okay, you don't have an administrator. How are you going to handle that piece of the project? Of course, you have to have an architect. What's that piece look like if you have that? If you're going to acquire a building, we want to know that you followed the URA, the Uniform Relocation Act. That's just part of getting money. And that is basically saying that you have the building appraised, that you talk to the owner and say, this is what it appraised at, and you reach an agreement on what the cost is, and that you inform the seller that they have their rights to not sell and those type of things. So it's just a legal process to make sure that nobody's pressured into selling that building, that they want to sell it and sell it for a reasonable cost. So that's part of the readiness to proceed. We just want you to be ready to go and kick it off and get that building rehab so that you can have a successful business inside of it. So as I said, there will be a private owner. We've had, for example, we've had commercial rehabs that somebody owned the building, but they made space within the building for 5 different businesses. So there was maybe a boutique in there, maybe a lawyer's office, maybe an insurance company, and they created it so several smaller businesses of their town could go into the downtown, and they just created the space. And we've also had owners that own the building, have the business, and run everything through that. So we will need a business plan so that we can fully understand what the intent of the building is and make sure that business is going to succeed. We need commitment letters to make sure that the costs can be matched and we can actually complete the project. So the owner would tell us, yes, I have matching funds to do this and go forward with it. And then we have to have, unfortunately, the downside is the recapture provision. And so basically, if the business closes or they go bankrupt or whatever terrible thing may have happened, we've all done our due diligence, but the world that we live in today, you just never know, especially the last few years we just never know. So there is a provision that if something happens within 3 years and the building is sold or something, that we get a portion of that money back. Because we didn't have a successful project and successful business. To my knowledge, we've never had to do that with commercial rehab, and that's a positive. I'm almost positive. I've never heard of it. I do not remember a discussion that we've had that we had to recapture the money for this program. So that tells me it's a success, and we're happy for that. We don't want money back. We want to have successful businesses in downtown. That's the whole goal. And I kind of took Dustin's presentation here. So he's calling this a single phase project. So basically, we're looking at the first phase being getting the building up to code and making sure that you're available to use that building and be safe in that building for the extended use of the building. In his multi-phase approach, he's saying phase 1 is us coming in, doing the code enforcement, making sure that the building is safe and we're taking care of those violations. The second phase would be the owner coming in then after we've left and making that building what they need it for the purposes they need it for. So if they're going to put in a boutique in there or a clothing store in there, that we can't participate in the purchase and installation of any of the interior pieces, any of the building that needs to happen inside, any shelving and that type of thing, any area for the cash register and things like that. That would be a second phase that would be totally responsible by the business owner. It's going to move in there. And I've talked about the business plan and financials, but there is commitment agreements and things like that we have to take care of. But when we're done, then and they're done, so they have an existing business, then we can proceed with close out of this project and get out of their hair so they can go on and create great things with their business. One of the things we do require is, of course, an architectural firm. And a lot of the architects, we've found out that they want to do base bids or lump sum bids and those type of things. We can't do that with a CDBG program. We need to know exactly what things are going to cost from that licensed architect and an itemization of the breakdown. So we can't do, you've probably seen or heard that about, well, it's going to cost you this much per square foot. And that's the type of thing we can't do. We have to have it by main law, as the definitions are below there. What's the bathroom's going to look like? What's the, what are we going to do? And in our case, we're going to look at more code enforcement. So it's not really about the bathrooms and that type of thing. It's more about, and the kitchen and the things that they've got listed there. It's more about electrical. Are we going to have 2 boxes or 1 box? If you're going to have offices, do they get to control their own heating and air, that type of thing? And those are the things that need to be itemized and broke down so that we know exactly what the business is going to do and what we're paying for and what they're paying for. I thought that was going to do that. And like I said before, if you are going to acquire a building, you have to follow the URA, the Uniform Relocation Act, and we'll be happy to help. And administrators know how to follow that program. I will say on that program, and I apologize if there's any lawyers on this call, but the administrators really need to, or somebody that understands URA really needs to do that for you and help you through that process. Yes, the attorneys are great with legal descriptions and preparing the deed and those type of things. But we need to follow a certain process to be eligible for the acquisition. And if you want us to help pay for the acquisition, then you want to make sure that you just get an option to purchase on the building and not actually buy the building until we're in there and can produce that for you. And I've talked a lot about grant administration. It's really important that you have a grant administrator on board. Now, that may be the business owner. You do not have to be certified for that. It could be just anybody in town or one of our grant administrators that know the process and understand CDBG. We do allow $17,000 of the 10%, whichever is less, for administration costs. So that does not have to come from the business owner or the city, except for the piece to do environmental review, that we have to get environmental clearance on the project before we can release any money on these type of projects. So that has to happen on the local side, paid by the business owner or the city. Other than that, we can cover the administration costs. There's a interactive map there. There's also, I added the administrators' territories site that we have, and those are administrators that agree to or want to work in particular areas across the state of Kansas. So that's been a real helpful tool for a lot of the cities and the building owners. Before you can submit an application, there are some prerequisites to it. We do have to have, as I spoke earlier, the Historical Society must approve, and this is really important, the work that you do like I said, that you may want to put in new whatever windows are something easy to pick on because there's different types, but the Historical Society may say, no, we want it to look more like the original. So these are the windows you need to put in, or you may want to take off some of the artistic pieces that are with that building, or tear off the tin inside of the ceiling, that type of thing, to get to whatever, and maybe you want to update it. The Historical Society may not approve that, and so therefore you cannot do that with our program. Of course we want an asbestos inspection. That can change the cost of the project significantly. So we want to do that up front so we know what we're dealing with, and be assured that we're taking care of those code violations with the asbestos inspection. So all that being said, we need a preliminary architectural report so we know all the details and all the thought that's gone into this project. I feel like I should be taking questions as I go through here, but we will take them later on. And so I'm about done here. So get your questions ready. Because this is federal money, again, we want to let the citizens know what's going on and what the city wants to invest, what the owner wants to invest, and that they're going to apply for CDBG money to do this project. So you have to hold a legal public hearing and provide information to the public that you're going to make this application and what it's for. That must be put in the paper at least 5 days prior to the public hearing, no more than 20. As Nancy and I was talking about, that if you do that last minute notice there, then people remember, but a notice a month ago probably isn't even on your radar at this point in time. So we do limit the 5 days, and we don't count the day that of the notice being published, and we don't count the day of the public hearing. So it's kind of 7 days if you want to think of it that way. The things that need to go in the public hearing notice is, of course, the description of the project, so the citizens know what's going to happen to what building, and then of course, the location of the building. If you're going to create jobs, how many do you expect to create or that you plan to create? The activity that we're going to carry out, what are we going to do to that building, so they can kind of visualize what it's going to look like within their downtown, how much funds you're going to ask for, and what the total project costs are. So just kind of lets the citizens know what's going on and what you're applying for. Once an application comes in, we will look at the application, review the application. If we think it has merit, then we will come out and do a site visit so that we know what we're starting with, and can ask any questions that we need to know. Or if we see something, then we can ask questions. Why wasn't that put in here? Maybe the sidewalk out front, it doesn't look, is unsafe. And maybe we might suggest that you put that in there as well to make it safe, so you don't have any liability issues in the future. Just trying to be helpful. And then we know what we're getting as well. I did speak about the environmental review. It takes, so just so that the owner knows, the building owner knows, once the application comes in, we want you to start working on environmentals to get that done, because it needs to be submitted for clearance 30 days after the application is submitted, so that we can get things rolling, because you can't spend money and do anything until the environmentals are cleared. That can take, depending on what you're going to do, 90 to 120 days. But it can also, if you're doing typically these projects, what we call, you have to do a category excluded, subject to review. It doesn't rise to the level of environmental assessment because you're not doing significant things to the environment. You're just doing significant things to the building. So a lot of times they can convert to exempt, and the time frame of that environmental review, if it converts to exempt, is 45 days. Once the administrator gets word that they need to do the environmental review, then they send letters out to the agencies to get their response back on if they have any comments about the projects or want you to be aware of anything with the project. If they don't have any concerns, it can convert to exempt. You send that information to me because I'm also an environmental specialist. And then I will be able to clear the project for you. So, but it can, if it's significant, if we're tearing down a building and doing something extreme, it could cause for environmental assessment, but most of these projects do not raise to that level and can be done in 45 days. All right, I am not the program contact, but I am for now until we get somebody on board. And then they will transition into that position. But for now, if you have any questions or comments past this, my information is there and the phone number is wrong. It's 4484. I thought I changed that. That's why I looked at it. I thought I had it changed. I must have changed it and not saved it. So the phone number there for those that want to write it down is 785-296-4484. So please contact me if you have any questions about CDBG in general, or housing. I'm also the housing specialist, and we'll revert to that role when we get somebody hired and in here. And we have hired somebody, they're just not here yet. So help is on, as Kayla tells me, Linda, help is on the way. So I will open it up, and I will, if anybody has any questions about housing, I will briefly talk about that here if I have the time. Nancy, do I have some time?
I think you do, but let's do ask the questions right now.
Okay, great.
So,
and then if we have more
Susan,
time, we can talk housing.
yeah, exactly. Because I've got a feeling there are people are interested in that too. So Susan asked if the building was recently purchased, can the purchase cost be counted towards the building owner's matching funds?
No, unfortunately not. Anything that happens prior to grant award is not eligible. And that's the reason I spoke to, it's a little late for Susan or whoever asked that question. And I apologize for that. But if you're going to do that, we ask that you do a contract for deed or have an option to purchase on that. And then it would be, because you haven't actually purchased it. Once you sign that deed and it's in your hands, then we can't do that, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, timing is always a problem. So any other questions? And I thought I'd leave her, Linda, I'll get that phone number changed before we post it to the,
Okay.
yeah. And she answers right away. Okay.
I do.
Any other questions, anybody? Because I've got a feeling there really are questions about housing too. Everybody has housing issues.
I will say this is a really popular program, commercial rehab. And and unfortunately, we don't have near enough money in the program, but it's what we have to deal with. And so that's what we'll go with. But we do run out of money quite quickly on this. And so really the only change from 2022, for those that are familiar with the downtown rehab, the only changes we really made in the program is that first of all, that city can only submit one application until that July date. So we can just make sure that everybody has a shot at the money, has the opportunity to participate in the program and spread the money out as much as we can. So that's really the big change in the program that I can see.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the share so we can see everybody again. Anybody? Great. What other questions do you have? Please feel free to unmute. Rob asked, if awarded, what is the timeline for the project to be completed?
2 years. We allow 2 years. The contract that the city would sign would be a 2-year contract to get the money expended. And most of them could be done could be done within a year. But that's up to the architect and the business owner and that type of thing. I will say with cost, pick your architect carefully and make sure they know, because Davis Bacon has to be done with this program. And so make sure that they're very in tune with what the Historical Society wants, because sometimes that can add extra cost if there's something specific they want, or you have to rehab a window instead of just buy a new window that can, and asbestos can change the cost and that type of thing. So make sure, because we have in the past had some problem with cost overruns. And so I don't want the business owners to open up the bids and have sticker shock, as they would say. So it's just it's really important that you pick an architect that will work with you, really understands the market, especially in today's world. The market and costs are just fluctuating and out of line, I would say, but I don't get to choose that. I don't have control of that.
All right. Mike asked a great question. And for those of you that may not know, all of these PowerPoints will be online. And by signing up and registering for the call, you're automatically in the list that will get the notice when they're posted. My colleague is on duty today, and so usually we get it done by the end of the business on the same day. So you can probably count on seeing them tomorrow if that's how you want to spend your Saturday. I don't recommend it, but okay. If there's no other questions, and we certainly won't keep anybody from asking questions retroactively. But Linda, what would you like us to know about housing?
I know there's a meeting going on as we speak, because we are really anxious we have revamped. I shouldn't say we. A coworker, Liz, has revamped the housing assessment tool, the HAT, and we just are waiting for the okay to release that HAT. I know many of you are waiting on that. I have started a list so that we can share that with everyone, and I know who to contact when it is released. So I have started a list. If you want on that list, put it in the chat or send me an email or something, and I'll be happy to put you on that list. Our thoughts when we are allowed to release the housing assessment tool is to have, we have a list of communities, and some of you may be in that community that have been selected as a pilot. If you are not and you'd like to, I don't know how many slots we have. I am not in charge of that. But we can sure check and look and see if we can find a spot for you, because by piloting, we're talking about, we will have meetings every other week with the community that is assigned to us. There's like 5 of us, I think, that are on the team and what we're trying to do there is make sure that the housing assessment tool that we've recreated is easier to use, has more guidance to it. And then we will tweak it as we hear back from the communities, but we will be in close contact every other week with the community that is our community, seeing how they're doing, making sure, because the goal is to try to simplify it and give you more guidance and more data so that you can complete it in 60 to 90 days. The goal is 60. Whether we can do that, I know we won't be able to during the holidays. So that's because that's important. We have to set our priorities.
Yeah. So let me say again what I thought I heard you saying. So by the way, put my name on that list to get the housing assessment tool. But if a community asks for this, are they automatically included, and somebody on that member of 5, your team of 5 will mentor them through the process?
We have a group of them. We can't mentor everybody, but we have a group that we're going to mentor from across the state, large and small. We tried to create a list of various communities, and then just so that we have close contact, we can guide them, see what guidance they need, that we need to find a tool to help them with that. So it's us getting in the weeds a little bit with the community, so we can.
So those are your pilot communities, and they're already chosen.
Some of them there are some holes, I think, but Liz is working on that as well. Since
Okay,
she
good.
did the hat. So we won't be able to mentor everybody, but our goal is that once we mentor a few communities, then when we tweak the hat, then we have a great product that communities can use and not need the mentoring. But I'm always here as a housing specialist to answer any questions or help you as much as I can, other than write the hat or put the hat together, because you know more about your community than I will ever know. So that's why we try to do that. The other thing, and just to give the basics, CDBG housing is about rehabbing homes within a small target area so that we can have impact on that target area. We all know when our neighbor starts fixing up their homes, then we start fixing up our homes. So the goal is to go in and help those low to moderate income people to rehab their homes, to make sure that it's safe and it has a good roof and it's weatherized and that type of thing. Then they can thrive and do well. But we can do that for owner occupied. We can do that for rental. And then we can also do demolition within that target area so that we really clean up the area and make it look better. Everybody in the homes must be low to moderate income. And as I spoke on this presentation about spot blight, slum and blight, the spot then it's the same way with the demolition. We do a spot slum and blight, but we're just, instead of rehabbing the building, in this case, we're taking out dangerous structure. And so that's it. And the other piece of that I added a couple of years ago was neighborhood development piece. And that just means that you can be eligible for $500,000. Just the rehab demo is $300,000 that you can apply for. And I'd love to raise that cost, but we don't have enough contractors to raise that and do more and get it done in 24 months. So if we get more contractors, or if anybody, and I say more contractors, meaning they have to have their lead-based paint training and certifications. So anybody out there that knows a magical way to create more contractors, I would love to talk to you. I just haven't found that crystal ball yet, or that magic wand that I can make it happen. But the only change with our housing program, for those that know what it was or what it has been, the only change is we went to an open window. We don't have a deadline for housing for 2023. So as soon as you're ready to submit an application, they will be online on the 2nd of January, ready to kick that program off. So as soon as somebody's ready, they can submit the application anytime between January and December. And we can then award that project and go from there. So that's one of the pluses that we tried to do with housing.
That's wonderful. And I'm seeing lots of people following your instruction to add, to put it in the chat, and Linda, I'll send that to you afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Part of our full service accommodation for us.
And I'm not leaving you here, but I forgot to plug my computer in and it's about to die. So
okay.
I tried to plug it in, but I'm still here.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, everybody, for adding your names to the chat. Are there any other questions? Yep, still getting good responses there. And, there's a lot of people, there's people on this call that could be recruiting contractors, talk to people and say to them, do you know about this? Because it's a win-win for everybody if we could create more business for them, although it's hard to imagine a contractor that needs more business, but anyway. Are there any announcements by anybody in the group? And while you're thinking of your announcements, let me give you mine. The fifth biannual survey of rural challenges prepared by Savior.town is ready for your answers. And I'm going to put in the chat the survey link, and I'll put it in the follow-up so that you can see it. And so fill it out and encourage others to fill out this survey. The next thing is that for several months, I haven't had any grant writing workshops, but we are about to fill out the schedule again. And if you want to know about grant writing workshops, if you're not already on that list, if you go to the bottom of the second thing that I put there that ends with grantwriting.html, at the bottom of the page, there's a sign up to put your name into our constant contact, and we'll send you information when those new grant writing workshops are open. We just did a survey of all the people who attended grant writing workshops in 2021, a whole year ago. Some of them were almost 21 months ago. And the total is now $38 million of successful grants that our grant writers report. And that's just 35% response out of all the people with a one-time response. So now I'm going to let the rest of you announce what would the rest of you like to know about what's going on in your world? Okay. So with that said, unless somebody thinks of something, our next speaker, and I will soon be publishing the 2023 calendar. We have 11 out of 12 of our 2023 programs confirmed. And next month's speaker, we haven't heard from anybody from the Kansas Department of Labor for a while. And so we're going to hear from Alan Vineyard, who is going to talk about making your workplace safe. And he's going to tell us about a no-cost health and safety inspection that the Department of Labor is offering. So, you know, that employees are hard enough to find. We need to keep every one of them safe while they're at work for us. And thank you so much. I'm still seeing your notes to be on the housing assessment tool. Feel free to keep putting those in there. I'll get them to Linda. And I'll leave you with our thought for the day. This comes from Notes of a Native Son, James Baldwin, who said, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by others who are doing it." So thank you, people. You are the people who are doing it, and you are the people who are exciting others to do it. And we really appreciate what you do and who you are. Create a great Kansas day. And thanks, Linda.
Sure. Thank you. Everybody have a nice weekend, and go Cats.